Welcome everyone to the finals of the FIDE Women's World Cup 2025 happening in Georgia. We have the two queens of Indian chess, Divya Deshmukh and Koneru Humpy, facing off each other in the finals. What a big moment for Indian chess this is. Definitely a huge one. And who will emerge as the champion? Both of them have already qualified to Candidates 2026. So that's one pressure off the back. But I'm sure both of them want to win this and take home the world title. Divya, well known for her opening prep, opens with 1d4. Let's see what Humpy responds back with. And you can see Humpy there calmly trying to think what is the best way to go for Divya's d4, because Divya can play e4, she can play many different openings. d5, she plays the queen's gambit with c4. And now Humpy generally goes for e6. The queen's gambit declined. It's a very solid opening and something that has worked out pretty well for her. But now she's taking her time. She's basically just thinking about all the possible options that she has. And she takes on c4. The queen's gambit accepted. And Divya now, is she well prepared? Yes, she goes e4, capturing the center right here. Many ways for black to play. Knight f6 is definitely one option. There's b5, very sharp line. There's this e5 move, which is very interesting, breaking the structure instantly. And Humpy goes for this move e5. Very cool, because if you take d5, then after queen d1, king d1, and maybe bishop e6, black is doing really well. So Divya goes knight to f3. If you take here, she's ready to take on c4. And that's a pawn sacrifice you play with white. And Humpy goes for a check on b4. Now, the modern lines in this queen's gambit accepted have become really sharp. bd2 is possible. Knight can come out to c3. These are the possible options. Divya plays her knight to c3. And now e takes d4 seems normal. Yeah, like just not to get into these complex lines. But Humpy goes knight to f6. Wow. Very interesting move. She's like, you can take my pawn, Divya, here. Knight takes e5. And the point is, if you take knight e4, there's bishop c4 with a very good position for white here, attacking the f7 pawn. So the best move here is surprisingly b5. Humpy is well prepared. Look at the times on the clock. Both players are well prepared here. Now the main move is f3. And we've seen top players like Magnus played, but Divya goes for bishop e2, which is a kind of a new idea, like giving up this pawn. And Humpy takes good 10 minutes and plays bishop b7, because I think she was a bit apprehensive to play knight takes e4 here going into Divya's prep. She goes bishop b7, and now Divya castles, also taking some time. Bishop g5 was the best move instead of castles. But okay, we are in a fresh terrain here, and Humpy playing this a bit shakily. She takes on c3, and now Divya captures it back. B takes c3. Imagine that you castle in this position, then after f3 white has a close to winning advantage. Unbelievable. Which is the reason why Humpy has to now chop off this pawn on e4, and she takes it. Knight takes e4 on the board. But now Divya has an incredible move, which, you know, her pawn is hanging here on c3. And if she tries to save it, black will quickly castle. So you have to gambit another pawn on c3. And what's the move? Bishop a3. Yes. Stopping the black king from castling. That's an insane move. And now if you take on c3 here, I simply go queen c2, takes, and the king is going to be toasted in the center. So that's the reason why Humpy comes back knight d6. But now she's ready to castle. So every move should be a threat from Divya's end. And the best move now is bishop f3, offering a trade of bishops. She finds it. Bishop takes f3, queen f3 is curtains, as f7 and a8 would be under pressure. So Humpy quickly finds the right move, queen c8. And now the best move here is rook to b1, putting pressure on b5 pawn. Also threatening ideas like bishop d6 and knight c4. So rook b1 would put a lot of pressure, but Divya has been thinking a lot. She's down to 34 minutes. This finals is a cracker of a game, like it's amazing how both of them are trying to go at each other's throat. And she takes knight takes c4. What a move by Divya Deshmukh, sacrificing a full knight. Of course, you can't take here with the knight because of check and bishop e7. Game over if king goes to d8. And so Humpy quickly takes back on c4. Now rook e1 check is a great move. Divya finds it, and Humpy must go to d8. It's not at all an easy move, but she must play it. Instead, here, if king f8, it's a losing move, and Humpy goes for it. Now the best move here is queen e2, and Divya is winning because after check, she can take on d6, and it's a mate on e8. But she goes bishop b7. It's a mistake. It's a mistake here, bishop b7. I believe Divya actually rushed into it a bit too soon, taking there on b7. She should have gone queen e2 with a huge advantage. We could analyze that a bit in detail a bit later, but now after bishop b7, Humpy can simply take back queen b7 and now queen e2. And Divya is essentially saying that, hey Humpy, there's a check here and it's a mate on the back rank. If you take out the knight here, you'll lose the knight. If you bring the knight out on c6, I'm going d5. And she does play knight to c6. And now there's no queen e7 check, but d5 is super strong. And now you can't move the knight because of check and bishop d6. So she goes d5. Good move here. Imagine you play knight a5. I have check, king here, and bishop d6. If you take back, it's a mate on the back rank. But Humpy finds the incredible defense here with h5. And this is why Humpy is such a strong opponent and very difficult to beat, because she realizes giving back the piece is the right thing to do. And after check king g8, there won't be any back rank mates because the king can have an escape route. Queen a6 played. And now Divya must take back her piece. Otherwise, she would be in a bit of trouble here. And she thinks a bit here. I mean, d takes c6 would be not so great because of queen a3. So first takes on d6, bishop takes d6, pawn takes on d6, and now taking the knight on c6. Yes, she takes it. And let's take stock of the new position. Material is even. c6 pawn is a bit weak. You can actually win it right now. Queen takes c6. That would make black a pawn up. Time-wise, Divya has 14 minutes. Humpy has 40 minutes. It seems like from the opening position, Humpy has managed to come out of the danger. But it's still not completely done. The reason for that is, look at all of White's pieces. They're playing in the game. While Black is missing the rook. I believe rook at 6 to rook e6 is what Humpy would love to do. And if Divya manages to stop Humpy from doing that, it would be great. King goes to g8. But there's just no way to increase the pressure, is there? And now Divya taking the pragmatic decision to chop off that pawn on a7. I think makes a lot of sense, but you can see the look on Divya's face. She's not particularly happy with where this has led. She would have wanted to finish off the game in the middle game itself, but now rook at 6. Humpy is coming back. She's getting her rook on g6, attacking the g2 pawn. h4 played here by Divya, calmly trying to make sure that she doesn't get under attack. Like imagine rook g6, g3, and if black could go h4, h3, that would have been dangerous. And now Humpy threatens a mate in 1. g3 seems like a good move. Played here g3. And interesting now, how will Humpy continue here in this position after g3. She's kind of thinking, is f5, f4 possible? Bit too weakening, right? f5, rook e7, f4, maybe rook b7, and before you get to the white king, I'm getting to the black king. So queen f3 played. And yes, rook g3 is somewhere on the horizon, although not particularly right now. Divya goes rook to e3, brings her rook up, and the rook is defended by the queen. So there's no rook g3, fg3, it's defended. Queen d1 check makes a lot of sense. Humpy gives a check on d1, king comes up to g2, and now a check on d5. Yes, queen d5 check, king comes back to g1. Look at the clock. Divya down to 2 minutes 15 seconds. Humpy has 12 minutes 50 seconds. And after a good 2-minute thing, Humpy is of the opinion that a draw should be fine. Divya comes up king g2. And now queen d5 check. And the players will agree to a draw. And that's over. Yes, queen d5 check. King g1 with 2 minutes 40 seconds. Divya isn't going to try anything spectacular. King g1. I think already Humpy with queen d1 can claim a threefold repetition, as that has happened 3 times. She goes queen d1. I think both players don't want to claim a draw. They just want to agree mutually. And Divya plays king h2 with 1 minute on the clock. Wow. Divya wants to go on. She wants to fight. That's already a statement there. Rook f6. She's like, I want to continue. Although technically she has no reason to keep playing here. But this does remind us of a bit of Gukesh's strategy against Ding Liren, where Gukesh kept playing on and on, even in slightly inferior positions. Queen f1, f2 pawn under pressure, and rook comes to e2. So Divya on the defensive slightly, but she's got f2 well guarded. And now rook comes to c5. Humpy is on the offensive. She may get her rook to f5, may get her rook to even e5 to trade off one of the defenders. Check. King goes to h7. And queen e4 check. There's g6. And she plays pawn to f4. And now Divya has her queen opened up a bit on h2. And Humpy goes pawn to d5. She pushes her pawn forward. And Divya moves in. Rook to e8. Is there some kind of a mating attack here with rook h8, king g7? I don't see it. Maybe queen g8. And Humpy plays this very cool move. Rook b5. The point is, if you take here, it's a perpetual check. She gives a check. King h8, g6. Divya had like 2 seconds when she made this move. She now finally takes on b5, but it's not a very happy feeling for her, because now Humpy gives a check and it's a draw. If you go to h1, I check from f1. If you go to h3, I still have a check from f1. And well, for Divya, this is not a very great result. However, apart from that opening chance that she had, I don't think she has a lot here. She's trying to remember all the moments in that game where she could have potentially tried. She goes h to h3. And Humpy goes for a check. King h2. And I think the players will agree to a draw. Queen f2 played. Both look at each other, shake hands, and it's a draw. Wow, what a game this was. Worthy of a World Cup finals. Divya went all out to attack against Humpy, but Humpy defense stood through. There was one moment which we want to analyze in this game where Divya could have actually broken through. It was perhaps not so simple, not so easy, but yeah, that chance was missed. And now tomorrow, Humpy will have the white pieces and a chance to finish off the match. If it's a draw, then we go into the third day of tie break. But we'll see how that happens. Anyway, a very, very proud moment for every Indian chess fan. The key moment of the game was at this point where Divya had just sacrificed her knight, clearing the e file for a check. Now Humpy should have gone king d8 because after queen e2, she can play rook e8, and after takes, check. King up, another check, king moves up, another check, king goes here, check, king a6, bishop c8, bishop takes c8. The position remains quite complex after rook b4. However, when she went king f8, now Divya had this incredible chance of queen e2. And I think the variation that needed to be calculated was knight c6, d5. And here, it's quite easy to think that after knight a5, things are okay, because when you take here already, you can take with the queen, the rook is protecting the back rank, or even you could take back with the knight. However, the key move here that is easy to miss is bishop b4, and the knight is trapped in the corner of the board. And so if queen e2 was played, maybe Humpy would have to play bishop c6. But then comes this move queen takes c4, which is incredibly strong. I'm first of all attacking here twice, and maybe you can defend it here. However, you have rook b1 already a lot of trouble. You could go potentially on the other side, but then d5 is super strong. Notice how this knight is pinned, so can't take the queen. And once you go back, I have rook b1 and big trouble once again. So then you say to yourself, okay, well, can I not simply take the bishop? But then comes the check, and this is where the game is over. Rook is coming in and it's done. So that's the reason, that's the point. Bishop c6, queen c4, and somehow it doesn't feel like, it feels like black should have many defensive options here, but somehow she doesn't have it, and Divya would have had a huge advantage in this position. But after king f8, the moment Divya took on b7, Humpy was very quick to play knight c6 and this key defensive move h5, after which she was out of the woods.